Welcome to Linden Capital Advisors, where financial freedom is just around the corner. Today we'll be discussing the current retirement plan for Mark and Debbie Brown. First of all, we'll take a look at their financial planning priorities. Next, we'll look at their retirement planning priorities, followed by their projected retirement cash flows. And finally, we will look at their projected retirement portfolio assets. These are Mark and Debbie's financial priorities. As you can see, they're both on the same page about their priorities. And in order, we have contributing to charity, planning for retirement, saving for major purchases, and lastly, saving for college. Moving on now to their retirement planning priorities. So this chart here shows us their priorities on a scale from 10 to 1, with 10 being their highest priority and 1 being their lowest priority. First of all, let's take a look at their priority levels. So at the top of the list, we have charitable giving, and this is at a 10, and this is followed by two priorities listed at a 7, which are annual travel throughout retirement and renovating their house with ADA upgrades, both at a 7. Next, we have two new car purchases. These are at a level 6, and that's a new car for both Debbie and Mark. And lastly, we have at a level 4 their vacation condo purchase in the Denver area, and then Kaysen and Noah's education accounts. So on a scale of 10 to 1, we can get a better feel for what is their top priority and what are some of the things that may or may not happen depending on how their cash flows go. And this chart also shows us the expected duration of each purchase or expenditure and the amount that they would expect to spend on each purchase or lifestyle benefit. Looking now at their retirement cash inflows. So first of all, we have Mark's Texas Tech University salary, and this is expected to continue in years 2024, 2025, and 2026, at which point in 2027 we would expect him to retire, and that's when Social Security benefits would kick in at age 67 for him. And the last item here is plan distributions. So these are distributions from Debbie's inherited IRA, and we would expect those distributions to continue to be a source of income for them for approximately 10 years until that account is fully withdrawn. This next chart here shows a number of their retirement cash outflows, beginning with their living expenses. So we would expect their living expenses to be about $82,300 in 2024, increasing at a rate of about 2.5% per year. And we can see then in 2027, which is their projected first year of retirement, being at about $97,000 per year in living expenses. Moving down to their liabilities, we're hopeful that they can continue to pay down their liabilities and debts and continue to do this throughout retirement so that they eventually hit that point where they no longer have any debt. And looking at their insurance premiums, so they're at about $11,748 per year, and that changes in 2027, goes down to about $5,200 when Mark reaches retirement. Next item is their taxes. So we expect their tax liability to be around the $50,000 mark each year, and then that changes again in 2027 when Mark no longer has his Texas Tech University salary. So we see a significant drop in taxes at that point. Moving on to their education plan for Kaysen. Kaysen is one of their grandchildren, their oldest grandchild, and he has plans to attend the University of Colorado Boulder. Mark and Debbie would like to fund as much of this education as they can. So right now we have a projected funding rate of 10%, and that is expected to increase at the rate of inflation about 2.5% each year. Again, not fully funding Kason's education account, just contributing what they can at 10%, and this may be adjusted later on down the road. And last two items here are their charitable contributions. So they are making donations of about $10,000 per year right now. We expect this to remain steady until 2027, at which point these would double to $20,000 per year and continue at about that rate throughout retirement. Continuing on with their projected retirement cash outflows, this slide here shows a number of major purchases that they might make during retirement. So we have 2 new car purchases for Debbie and Mark, both coming in around $32,000. And then we have the Denver condo purchase, which would be a vacation home for them, expected to be a little bit over $300,000 in 2027. Along with that, their annual costs for maintenance projected around $6,500 per year for that vacation home. And next we have their healthcare costs. So for 2027 and 2028, we are expecting to pay about $18,000 per year for healthcare. And last item is their home renovation, which would include ADA upgrades. That is expected to cost about $53,900 in 2027. And now for the last slide on their retirement cash outflows. So first item, we have Noah's education. Again, this is very similar to Kason's education funding. We would expect them to contribute about 10% per year for this fund, and we're looking at right around $1,200 in the first year, this year, 2024, to fund Noah's education plan. Again, this is not fully funding his education, it's merely contributing about 10% per year. And this can be adjusted depending on Mark and Debbie's future cash flows. And the next item is real estate taxes. So this comes in about $11,000 per year, expected to continue throughout retirement, and it adjusts for inflation about 2.5% per year. One of their retirement planning priorities is traveling around the country to see family and play golf. So in 2027, which is Mark's expected retirement year, we would expect them to pay about $27,000 in expenditures for their travel costs, and that also adjusts for inflation. And this leaves us at planned savings in 2024 to 2026, averaging right around $48,000 per year. Total cash outflows would then be significantly greater in 2027 compared to the 2024 to 2026 period as a result of these major purchases that we mentioned in the previous slide. So adjusting for those major expenditures in the initial retirement year would significantly impact their cash flows, and we can see that in that year 2027 they have a net cash flow of negative $630,000. One of the things that the Browns mentioned is that leaving a significant legacy for their children and grandchildren is not a top priority for them. As such, we would expect to draw down their portfolio assets over the time frame of their retirement years. So beginning in 2027 until their life expectancy of about 2056, we would be able to use those resources to fully fund their desired retirement lifestyle. Ultimately, our goal here at Linden Capital Advisors is to help the Browns achieve financial freedom. By focusing on their retirement planning priorities, we hope that we can help them dance their way into retirement and achieve their desired retirement lifestyle.